Keep It Crazy family. Welcome to my Q&A. The first question is by Milkshake. I love milkshakes. And they ask, Crystal, what made you do surrogacy when you yourself had fertility problems? And one of the other questions that was very similar was by Blueberry Starshine. I didn't know you did surrogacy. Can you tell us more about it? So, what got me into surrogacy? I actually always wanted to do a surrogacy since I was like 12 years old. I used to go for the summertime and stay with my aunt, and my aunt was like a second mom to me. I loved her. She was just so special to me. And she always had fertility problems. And I remember being 12 years old and staying with her and finding out that my mom was pregnant, and she just cried and why can you have so many children and I can't, and I just want a baby more than anything, and just in tears. And I remember being like, as a 12-year-old, sitting there and thinking and like, if I could carry a baby for you, I would give you a baby. And I just, from that moment on, I knew that if I ever got the opportunity to help somebody else have a family, or to help somebody else in that way, that I would. So after Aaron and I went through the fertility problems ourselves, I never had a problem carrying any pregnancies or with any. I always have actually really good pregnancies, and I love being pregnant. I know that sounds weird too, but so once we went through fertility problems and I knew what it felt like to really want a baby and not be able to have one, and then finally we got pregnant with Logan, and then we were going through the adoption and foster care and all of that. So Aaron and I decided between each other that we weren't gonna have any more biological children. Yet I still felt like I wanted to help somebody. So that's kind of when I started looking into surrogacy more at that point. I ended up going through an agency and getting matched with some amazing people. And it was just the most amazing process ever. Both surrogacies that I did were healthy, full-term pregnancies, no complications, just like the perfect situation. But to see those families hold their baby for the first time and really want that baby, and I felt like in a lot of ways it was like a breath of fresh air from foster care, because in foster care it kind of seems like kind of the opposite sometimes. With that though, with surrogacy, it just, to be able to give somebody a family and help them even complete their family, it is just the most amazing. Like, I would do another surrogacy in a second. I've actually been thinking about doing a third one, but I've kind of been going back and forth on that. So I would surrogacy is amazing, for sure. Okay, let's get on to the next question. The next question is by Clara Yvonne 2020. That's so strange that Crystal had a dream that told her that there was something wrong with her pregnancy, and a dream that she was gonna have a little girl just before Aurora came into her family. That's pretty incredible dreaming. I agree. Has she had any other dreams that have turned out to be real? Also, actually I'll answer that real quick before I read on with this thing. So I sometimes have these, like, it's just little, like, I guess not like a full dream, but it's these little feelings in my dreams, and then I wake up and I'm like, oh my gosh, and I just get this like strong intuition. And it actually happens quite often. It's the weirdest thing, and I know, like, Aaron's always like, no, that's not true, but then it ends up being true, so it's kind of crazy. But also, do you think it's okay for the kids to have their life filmed and watched by other people? Do you see any negative or positive aspects of it? Like if they're always having to think about how they look or how they present themselves or perform for the camera, etc. Love you in the crazy middles. I really hope to adopt myself someday. Okay, so this is actually a really interesting question because I didn't know how it would affect them. Originally, when I started YouTube, kind of my intent or my thought behind it was a lot of my kids, actually, let me even go back further. One of my kids got a project in school, and one of the projects was all of these questions about their history and how they got named and who named them and how the parents felt when they were first born, and they had to post newborn pictures on this project. Well, this child didn't come to me till they were 9. So the earliest picture I had was when they were 9, and my heart broke because they actually avoided doing the project because of the history with it. And I couldn't believe in school that they would assign a project like that. I mean, I understand it, but at the same time, I felt that it wasn't sensitive for kids who've been through certain situations. So I was actually able to plug their 9-year-old picture in these pictures, and it backdated it, and I actually got an infant photo of them. I guess it was all digitally done, obviously, but to see how excited they were, and oh my gosh, this is a baby picture of me, and it was just so amazing to see. And at that point, when we were thinking about YouTube and the whole thing, and I'm like, you know what, to have family memories and to have these videos constantly out there that I normally wouldn't videotape every day of my life, but on YouTube I do, and I enjoy it and I love it, and my kids enjoy it. And as far as the perform part, my kids don't perform. I honestly film just what goes on in our day and what goes on in our activity, and I don't tell my kids what to say or how to act. Or I mean, a lot of times you'll see Hallie in being filmed and she doesn't have any makeup on, and I try to really build my kids' self-esteem up, and they are beautiful with or without makeup, and they're beautiful no matter what. And not every day is perfect. Sometimes there are fights in our family. Sometimes there's very sensitive things that my kids go through, and at those points I have an open conversation with them. I talk to them, you know, do you want me to put the camera away? I won't film this. And a lot of times my kids say, no, I would like to remember this moment, even if it is like Alex's, for example, when he had a homecoming one where he didn't get, you know, the girl didn't say yes, and it was actually a really sensitive thing and a very sad thing for him to go through. And yeah, he was like, I want to remember that, and I want to look back at someday when I'm married and happy and have kids and be able to show that I went through something like that and I came out stronger. And so my kids absolutely love it. And then the other thing with it is I didn't realize the effect of it until I started actually filming these Q&As. And there's a couple of my kids who have not been able to talk about their past because of how traumatic or kind of things that they've been through. And some of the Q&A questions that they answered, they didn't even get teary-eyed. They didn't even, and I honestly feel like they feel that you guys are family also, and that they have been more open and honest, and they've been able to work through those traumatic things and feel like they have people out there that love them, they have people in their family that love them, and they've actually healed from YouTube. And I know, again, this sounds so weird and so strange, but I just love it. And I love when they sit and just watch through our videos, and it's helped us remember those times more. So the next question is by Daniel Elliot. Did you always want to foster and adopt when you were growing up? When is your birthday and what is your age? How do you and Aaron divide the household chores up between everyone? Who is older between you and your sister Shelly from the Crazy Middles? P.S. I love the crazy pieces. All right, that's a lot of questions in there, so I'm gonna kind of try to break it up one by one. So first of all, I will just say my birthday is October 19th, 1985. So I just had a birthday, and I don't go by ages, I go by levels. So I'm level 33. And as far as did I always want to foster and adopt? So again, this kind of goes back to my childhood. I just had these experiences that just were really profound to me. Actually, it's almost the same for Shelly and I. We both had the same experience, which is crazy. But I had a friend growing up that was 16 years old, or when I was 16, he was 15 actually, and we were good friends at school and everything. And he was over at my house, and it was around Christmas time. And Shelly and I were both sitting there talking, and I want this for Christmas, and I want that, and we were kind of going back and forth. And she turned to him and asked him, "What do you want for Christmas?" And he turned it to both Shelly and I, and he said, "I already got what I wanted for Christmas this year." And we were like, "Wait, what? What do you mean?" And he's like, I'm a foster child, and I just recently got adopted, and all I ever wanted was a family. And I have my family now, and I don't ever need anything else. And Shelly and I both just looked at each other and had these like tears in our eyes, like, oh, we felt so bad because we were like, oh, we want all these materialistic things, but at the end of the day, it is just about family. And I think at that moment on, Shelly and I both wanted to adopt and both wanted to do foster care and kind of create that family in that moment for somebody else, so. All right, sorry, I had to change out the battery in the camera. It started dying, so. Anyways, the next question is by Jessica Harden. Crystal, first of all, I want to thank you so much for sharing your experience and being so open and honest about it all. I'm curious, does Aurora talk? Does she have any delays? So Aurora doesn't currently talk. The average 2-year-old actually is supposed to have around 50 words, and Aurora is about at 4 or 5 words. So she doesn't speak a whole lot, so we are really worried about it. She is currently going through speech therapy weekly, so that is definitely helping. The other thing that we are currently doing with her, because she understands like intelligent wise, but she just doesn't have words to communicate yet, so she gets extremely frustrated sometimes with not being able to communicate. So we are currently teaching her sign language, and as far as sign language words, she's about at 10 of those. So she picks up on sign language so quickly and so fast. So we are currently doing that, trying to bridge the gap between feeling frustrated and being able to communicate. And then we're also reading her a ton of books and doing all the therapies and everything to help her with that. So from Kelly, 123987, and she asks, are you and Shelly biological sisters? How many siblings do you have? So we are biological sisters. From my biological dad and mom, there was 4 of us, and she is the oldest, I'm the youngest, so we were actually 8 years apart, but we were always super close. And then as far as our siblings, we ended up having 6 total siblings. So we have our 4 that are biological, and then we have 2 halves. All right, this next question is by Michaela, and I actually recorded it earlier in the week so you guys can kind of understand what we do more, and here's that clip. It is really early in the morning. Sorry my hair's not done, it's still kind of wet from my shower, but I wanted to answer one of your questions right now. This question is from Michaela Renee, and she says, could you explain a little bit more on what day trading is? So I thought no better way than to show you how I day trade, or kind of a little sneak peek of what I do. So Erin and I both do this, and this is how we help support our family. And here's kind of what it looks like. So here's our charts. It's kind of hard to see. Okay, oh, there we go. Okay, so here's our charts, and there's different symbols for different charts. So here's like crude oil. This is what gold is currently selling at. That's the E-mini S&P, NASDAQ, all of that. So based on the charts and kind of what's going on, we have strategies developed. We buy at a certain price, and then within minutes we sell the stock or sell what we're doing. So that's what day trading is. Here's kind of the ladder that we buy on. And you can see that I'm currently trying to buy one contract at the 27.64.25. So once the blue line comes down to the green line, I get into the trade. And then once I'm into the trade, I'll have like a profit target and a stop loss. I know this is probably really confusing, but, and then depending on what it hits is what I get. So every line that it goes up, I make $12.50. And same thing if it goes down, I lose that much. So I will see, or I will show you once I get into a trade. Okay, so from that trade, I made $62.50. And the best part of day trading for me is I do it for like an hour or two in the morning. Aaron kind of does the same. And I get to hold Aurora while I work. And it's so fun, and I just love it. I know day trading may be like a little confusing, and there is a lot that goes into it as far as like reading the charts and everything like that. The cool thing is though, is Aaron and I use a strategy that actually has an 86% win rate. So it usually works out in our favor. Totally Sisters asks, how do you discipline? Love your sense of humor. Thank you so much, Totally Sisters. I have gone through a lot of different methods with discipline, actually. Because when kids come from foster care and adoption, it's really different. You can't, I mean, it's a different kind of parenting, and it's not the same sometimes as your biological kids. But there's this method called Love and Logic. And if you're not using it and you're a parent, you should look it up, because it is so amazing. It makes parenting fun. How do I describe it? It's kind of parenting through empathy and love and natural consequences to their, I mean, if, you know what I mean? For example, like if you weren't ready on time and you're late to a work, you could get fired, and that's a natural consequence. And so I believe in parenting with natural consequences. And then there's some situations that of classes I've taken with trauma and miscues, and I could go into this whole other thing when it comes to parenting, but I've definitely learned from all of those classes, and I've kind of tailored all my parenting towards that. All right, this one's from Ellie19ism. What's your least favorite movie? Question from my 7-year-old brother who loves your channel very much. All right, well, this one's for the brother then. Thank you so much for watching our channel. And my least favorite movie is Scary Ones. I do not like scary movies at all. I get like anxiety, and I like get all into it, and I jump scare, and it just, So I don't really have like a particular one, but just scary movies in general. All right, this next one is by Esther Lynn Rayan. What would be your biggest piece of advice when fostering older children? I'll begin my foster care journey soon and hope to foster older children. Oh my gosh, that's so amazing, and good luck on your journey. So when I felt like fostering younger children was actually harder than the older children because they couldn't communicate and explain to you kind of what they're going through, to where in the older kids they actually can. So my biggest piece of advice for that is to open your heart and really listen, and to put yourself in their shoes and really understand, because a lot of the times, like, I had a hard time understanding, like, why does this kid act like this when we walk into the Disney store? And the more I understood them and I listened to them, and the Disney store was a trigger for one of my kids, and there was something that happened in a Disney store, and I'm obviously not going to go into the story, but so definitely putting yourself in their shoes though, and understanding that normal things to you aren't normal to them. All right, Potter Lover asks, what's the hardest / saddest story you heard from your children's past? It's an intense question, Potter. It's a really intense. And I don't know if I should answer it or not. I'll do a brief explanation, I guess. So I'm not gonna say what happened or the actual story, but let's just say that the story was so horrific and so bad that the person involved in it actually got 18 years in prison. And it wasn't just necessarily what happened, it was sometimes how justice has to be served. And what I mean by that was, in order to charge this person with what they did, the foster child that I had to actually go to court for the whole trial and the jury and the everything, and had to write out in very descriptive what happened to them. And I had to go with them, and I had to go to this court. And sorry, I'm really trying not to cry about this, because it was by heart the hardest and saddest thing, most horrific thing that I had to go through with them. And so they had to write it out, and they had to read it on the stand before the jury and the judge, and in order to get the sentencing that this person deserves. And with that, the child went to go on the stand and read this and had a major panic attack. And I mean, it's bad enough to go through an unimaginable situation, but to have to face that person on a stand. I mean, that person was sitting in this room and have to say that out loud with the person that did this to you. And my foster child had a total complete panic attack and wasn't able to read it. And I actually went and helped this child off of the stand and took him back, and they pulled me aside. They did a quick recess, and they're like, this has to be read, and if your child can't read this, then you have to. And I knew for justice, in order for justice to be served, the things had to be said out loud. And so I did. I went on the stand and I read in very descriptive words what happened to my child. And I'm sorry, justice was served. The person got 18 years, and it still will never take back what this person did. But at the same time, I'm very grateful for the people that helped my child through this, and for ultimately all the lawyers and the police officers and everybody out there that helped justice be served. All right, get myself together. I didn't know my Q&A would be this intense, guys. All right, the next question is by Ariana V. Crystal, what made you decide you wanted to adopt more than a few children? All right, I love this question, because I think unless you go through it, or unless you really understand it, you wouldn't understand why. You just kind of look and be like, they're crazy, which we may be a little bit crazy, but at the same time, I have to take you kind of back on this one. My very first foster child, I didn't know what to expect. And going into foster care in general, my hope in the whole thing was to be able to adopt one girl. So at that point, I would have 2 girls, 2 boys, perfect, right? And so I didn't know what to expect. And I remember they actually send you an email like, you're licensed, woo! And I was so excited. And my kids are so excited. And within, a few hours of being licensed, I got this phone call. And they said, hey, we have a 3-year-old girl. Will you take her? And of course I said yes, and we're super excited. And I go to open, or the doorbell rings, and I go to open it, and I open the door slowly with such anticipation and such excitement. And then I didn't know what to say. There was this 3-year-old little girl standing on my doorstep, scared out of her mind. And she literally was wrapped in a towel and had a Walmart bag draped around her hair. And I was so confused, and I was so, what is going on? And I don't understand. And the caseworker just says, well, she had lice and she was a mess, and I just threw everything away and I put this bag on her head, and here's this child. And And I was like, wait, what? It's not what I pictured in my mind of foster care. And I guess maybe I was naive in that situation, but I brought this little girl in, and to see the love and compassion that all my family had. Hallie was like, oh my gosh, let me go you can wear some of my clothes. And even though this girl was so much smaller than Hallie and was just like swimming in these clothes, it was the love and compassion that my kids had and that I felt. And we totally took her on a shopping spree and got her everything she would ever need. But, and it really hit me because I understood at that point kind of what love was. And I mean, I had understood love. I mean, you get married, you love your kids, you love your husband, you love. Like, I got it. But at that moment, I truly got it. And I truly knew kind of what my purpose was. And I knew kind of where I wanted to take my family from there. And I could tell you story after story of things that happened in foster care, of defining moments of, you know, just even being in the kitchen and making dinner and having a child come and sit at the table and look at me all worried. And I'm like, hey, you know, what's going on? And that child to say, you know, well, do you think there's gonna be enough food for me tonight? And I just, like, oh my gosh, you can have all the food you want. And but it's just that love and compassion that I started to really understand and really, I mean, I know they say, like, you know, how does foster care affect your children? And I would say it makes them be more loving and more compassionate and understanding to other people. And not everybody is as fortunate, you know, as others. And at the same time, if we help each other out and we work together, I mean, this world could be such a better place. And anyway, so get back to the actual question. To answer, you know, why did it, or what was the actual question? What made you decide to adopt more than a few children? And it was story after story like this. And it was knowing that sometimes in situations, if I didn't step up, nobody would. And, you know, Hannah and Alex, for example, they were available for adoption and stayed in a group home for over a year. And this email just, you know, happened to come across with their pictures and a story about them. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, like, a lot of people want to adopt, you know, these little babies or these little kids, but the older kids just don't get as many opportunities to have a family and to be in like a loving situation. And a lot of them just age out of group homes. And I mean, how do you say no? And when you get a phone call and they say on the phone call, you know, I have this, you know, 5-year-old boy that is sitting in a shelter and no one, you know, there's not enough foster homes and not enough people out there, and they're literally just gonna stay in the shelter. Will you take them? I mean, hello, how do you say no to that? And so, yes, so ultimately what made me decide to adopt these children is I just felt that it was right. And with each of my kids, I mean, each of them has a special story with me, and each of them has a moment where I knew this was my child. And did I expect to adopt as many? No, but I know that it was what was meant to be. On a more lighthearted note, this one's from Crazed Pieces, and this one says, Crystal, what is the best thing you like about your fans? Oh my gosh, I love my fans so much, like so much, you don't even understand. And not that I love you guys for being supportive and for being there and all of the nice comments and the amazing things that you say to my children and uplifting and helping build them and their self-esteem up. But I love how you guys love and support each other. And there's conversations that go on between the fans and between people, and it warms my heart. And in a few videos back, this was like the best example I can give you guys. But in a few videos back, there was one of the emotional videos we did about one of our child's past. One of you guys put your personal email in the comments. And at first I'm like, what, are they crazy? Why would they put their personal email? And then I read what they wrote with it, and they were like, hey, I'm a stay-at-home mom, you know, I have extra time, and if anybody needs somebody to talk to, I'm here for you. And here's my email address. And I just like, oh my gosh, when I read that, I was like, you guys are the best people out there. Like, truly, that's someone I would be so proud to call my family and so proud to have in my corner. And I just, whoever wrote that and that you know who you are out there, you are amazing. And I just, oh, I love you so much. Jim Bob says, love you guys, can I have a shout out? Shout out to Jim Bob, we love you too. Thank you so much for watching my Q&A. I appreciate all of the comments and questions and just all the love and support. And thank you so much for being in our family with us. We love all of you so much. Until next time, bye.